Everyone, welcome. Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Here. Wait, one sec. All right. Okay, bye. Okay. Looks like. Let's see if this connects. Hi. Okay. Connect. Yes. Okay. Can everyone hear me all right? Is that okay? Close. I don't care about moderation. Okay, everyone. Can you hear? Tell me if you can hear. Yes or no? Let's scoot you guys back a bit. All right. Tell me if you guys can hear. Can you hear? Okay, we are off to a great start. Hooray. Great! Wow! Hooray! Okay. Well, that is so fortunate. Okay. All right. Looks like it is time to start. Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to my live stream. Today, we're going to be making a lemon tart for my teacher because he is turning 50 years old. Round of applause for him. Anyways, okay. So, to get started, let me send the link to people. Okay. I always mess this up. I don't get how the live stream thing works. It's so annoying to me. So just bear with me for a minute here, okay? Because I will start in just a second, but I have to figure this out first. So. All right. Good to know that the thumbnail quality is just fantastic. That is truly excellent. So, time to send it. All right. Okay. So, first order of business is grabbing all my ingredients and getting everything ready. So, this recipe has a. Oh, hi. Oh, hello. Welcome. All right. Anyways, so right now we're gonna start grabbing ingredients from my pantry because my pantry is just so wonderful. I have the sugar. So this recipe calls for a bit of flour. We love flour. Sugar, lots of sugar. And lemons, of course, because we're making a lemon tart today. So you guys will love it, okay? It'll turn out really good. Okay, now, if I do recall correctly, we also need salt while we're here. I just use this Kroger brand salt because why not? All right, granulated sugar, cream. That is an important ingredient. So I am going to be using half and half cream for the purpose of this video. And I'm assuming that it'll achieve the same texture I want. So, all right. We will eventually need eggs too, because this does call for a lot of eggs in the curd. But for now, we'll only need a couple eggs. So let me grab a bowl. No, I'm not grabbing a bowl. We aren't grabbing a bowl. So time to come around to the fridge. And here we are, the fridge. So for the crust of this recipe, we're going to need 1 egg. And you'll see. Okay. Okay, now we need a measuring cup. And of course, I don't know where the measuring cups are. That is great. We are put together on this live stream. Don't you worry about a thing. Okay. All right. I lost track of all my measuring devices. But for now, we can grab our cups, quarter cups, and a thirds cup, because these will come in handy in just a moment. And after that, we will need our smaller measuring spoons. Here they are. Now, the most that you're going to be using with this recipe is probably the tablespoon, because you have to use it for the lemon zest, you have to use it for the cream, and it's just the most frequent that we'll use. Now, if I could just find the measuring cup, that would be very, very nice. So if you'll come with me, let's find the measuring cup. Come on. All right. Well, okay. I'm here now, so I'm going to grab a bowl, because with this recipe, we have to mix the ingredients in separate bowls for parts of the process. So I think I'll only need 1, which is fortunate. All right. Let's put these 2 back. After all, unnecessary mess creates more cleanup, and we don't like that here. So, okay, we have our flour, we have our sugar, we have salt, cream, and we have eggs. So we have everything we'll need for the crust. And this is the first step of the process. This will probably take around 20 minutes or so. So it's not that long. Okay, we'll only need 1 egg, and specifically the yolk of the egg. Oh, okay. I see we're starting a little song chant in the chat. That's fun. I don't have any clear bowls for demonstrations purposes. My apologies. Oh, okay. It was in the washing machine. This is super fortunate, because now you guys get to see how cleanly we are in this kitchen, because we only clean with the best materials. After all, a cleanly kitchen is the first step to a good recipe. Not dropping stuff is good too, because being a klutz will not help you in the kitchen. So whoever was commenting the cleanup song, thank you. It really will prove to be helpful in times like these. Okay. Now, once this is clean, we're going to use this to whip up a mixture of egg yolk and cream, because that will be our base. Now, never forget to wash your hands before you start cooking, because it removes bacteria, it creates a safer environment, and it's just better for those you cook for. So everybody, let's wash our hands. Okay. Ta-da. I really hope that everybody joins the live. That'd be so fun. They'd just watch me bake. I would love it. All right. So now that we've washed our hands, it's time to finally start actually cooking. 10 minutes into the live stream. I know. How fantastic, right? So is everybody with me? Is everything all right? Is everything working okay? Do comment, please. Hello? Anybody there? Just leave a comment down below if everything is working all right, so I know that the audio is still working. Okay. Good thing I have a very responsive viewer base. So to start, we have to take our measuring cup that we just washed and we're going to dry it out. And we're going to start adding our ingredients. Now, the first ingredients that you add are the eggs and the cream, because you want to make a liquid mixture before you add it to a dry mixture. All right. So we'll need our egg yolk and the cream. And for the cream, we'll only be needing 2 tablespoons. So, woohoo, we're so fortunate for that. Okay. Okay. 2 tablespoons of cream. We can do that really quickly. Make sure to mix it up just in case it's been out for a while so that it incorporates all the stuff in the bottle. Smell it to make sure it hasn't gone bad. Mine is fine, so we will use it. I recommend doing it above the container that you're going to end up pouring in, just in case you spill any over. So there's 1. There's 2. And I like to put a little bit extra to account for any loss when you're pouring it out, just in case. Okay. Now that we've handled that, we can move on to the egg. Now, it's best to do this part of the process above the sink, because to get an egg yolk, you have to break the egg and you have to pass the egg yolk between the 2 pieces of eggshell. And it can get a little bit messy, so it's best to let it not spill over. And I think, okay. I think I'll do it with that there. All right. So break your egg in half, but try not to like shatter it completely. Make sure there are 2 halves so that you can cup the egg yolk in there and pass it from one half to another until you just have the egg yolk. Luckily, mine worked out really well. So I'll just scrape off the last remnants of that and pour that egg yolk in there. Now, I just put the eggshells on the sink because my drain can handle it. I really don't care. So moving on, just quickly rinse off your hands. You're supposed to wash them, but salmonella doesn't exist because germs aren't real. So get a fork and whisk this together. This mix is going to be added to our bowl in a minute. We're just going to have to set it to the side for now. And this is where your hands might get a little bit messy, because our next step is going to be adding all of our dry ingredients and then crumbing it, or like making a shaggy mixture. And that just means that it has to be not a liquid, not a powder, but it has to be moldable but crumbleable. It has to be an in-between. Now, the first ingredients that we add into this are 1 1/4 cup of flour, all-purpose, preferably. Now, I think I have all-purpose here, so we're lucky and fortunate today. And I like my flour container because there's a little magnetic scoop in here so that you can level off your scoops. And it's really, really helpful, especially with stuff like flour and sugar. That's why I absolutely love them and I recommend them. Okay. Next, we're going to have to add salt and our sugar. Now, okay, salt and sugar. So we're going to have 1/4 tablespoon of salt. Not a lot. If you add too much, it'll be too salty and savory and it won't taste very good. So we have to be a little bit conscious in how much we add. Let me just finish cleaning this. Sorry, guys. All right. So now that we're to washing dishes, it's important to clean all your stuff throughout the process of baking because the less mess you have to deal with in the short term, the better it'll be in the long term. And you won't have as much to do after. Okay. Apologies for my voice. I am sick right now, so it may sound a little strange, a little different than usual. So we take 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and make sure you don't spill it over because that would be bad. Then you add it into the container with the flour. Now, after adding it to the flour, we're then going to add our sugar. And our sugar, we need 1/4 cup. So it's not a whole lot of sugar in the crust, just a little bit. Most of the sugar comes from the curd. So once we make the curd, you'll see a lot of the sugars in there alongside the eggs. We only used 1 egg for the crust, so not a lot. And I just refilled my sugar container, so it looks really nice and pristine on top. Hello, welcome. So I'm making a lemon tart right now for my physics teacher as it's his 50th birthday. And I just wanted to live stream my process because I know that a lot of people love baking tips and they need to know what to do. Now, you could go through and mix this, but I think it's just better to shake the bowl as it allows everything to incorporate evenly and it just creates a really nice mix. So once you've shaken that up a bit, our next step is where your hands are about to get dirty. So this step, I'd recommend just washing your hands before and just have me on in the background. Just have me on in the background. You can do your homework with the audio from the video playing. I think it's a good proposition. So for this step of the process, we are going to need 1/2 cup of butter. And that should just be 1 stick. But specifically, we're going to be using unsalted butter. I have a preferred brand of butter, Land O'Lakes, because it works. And I like it. So yeah, the butter should be cold when you get it out. And you're going to set that bowl slightly to the side because you're going to have to chop up this butter into pea-sized pieces. Now, there are a couple different ways to go about it, but I think the easiest way personally is just using a butter knife or any other knife that you use and cutting it into these small pieces. This will come in later once you're kneading this dough mixture, as it's kind of like a shortbread, but it's not entirely like one. So Now that we have our stick of butter, 1 stick of this is half a cup. Although if you have shorter sticks, you're going to need to just do the simple math. Cut them into slices first, because then it's easier to just go through and cut them smaller later. I'd recommend not too thin to where you have to cut a lot of slices, but not too thick, or else they're not going to be pea-sized even once you cut them down further into fourths. So this might take a little bit of time. Do not worry. If the butter heats up slightly, it's okay. You don't need to worry. All right. I'm going to keep cutting. Now, once you have these slabs, I find it easiest to then go through and cut them into fourths. But you do it however you please. Just end up with pea-sized pieces. There's going to be a little bit of variation in my slice sizes because this knife is not cutting the way I was hoping it would. But that's okay. In the end, it's all going to be crumbled up anyway, so it doesn't really matter how you do this. The preparation of this recipe does take a little bit longer than any other step of this process. And I think you do need to take that into account if you're thinking of making this. Preparation just takes a little bit, but out of all the steps, one of the longer ones is definitely waiting for everything to chill. But that'll come down like later in the line, because there are a couple steps where you have to wait for stuff to chill. Like the crust, you set it into the pie tin, then you have to wait, I think, 30 minutes until it's ready to be pulled out. And also before you put it in the pie tin, you have to wait 30 minutes so that it is cold enough where it won't stick, but also not rock hard, so that you can still roll it out and form it into a shape. All right. So now we've reached the part where we're cutting each of these pieces of butter into 4 pieces. And once you're here, you just slowly add them into the bowl. And once they're in the bowl, you don't have to worry about them, because then they've already got some flour coating on them. So now I can put it in. I can put it in. I can put it in. Oh, I can put it in. I'm recording.
Huh?
I'm recording. So I can put it in. Don't worry. Let me just finish cutting up this butter, and then I'll put it in the oven. 400, right? Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's going to be a second. I have to cut all this butter. But I'll tell you once I put it in. All right. So you're just going to keep cutting into fourths. And it's okay if they're not perfect fourths. Just as long as they're generally around that size, you should be okay. Right. And now we're almost done with the butter. So we'll start talking about the next step. Once you're done, you're going to put your hands in there, and you're going to have to knead it and crumb the butter into the flour, salt, and sugar mixture to get the shaggy mixture that we're looking for before we eventually let it chill in the fridge for a short amount of time. Again, the chilling takes up a large majority of the time that you'll spend on this recipe, but it's not that bad since you can just do whatever while it's chilling. All right. Almost there. Yeah, this stuff takes a little bit. Okay. Now you're good to go. All right, there we go. Now I am going to take a really short break to put some stuff in the oven. Once this butter is in the bowl, it won't be too long, don't worry. So now we have our mixture done. And after this, it's time to knead. But I have things to do first. So we'll get there when we get there. Okay. All right. You know what? I'm feeling lazy. Let's just cut that like shit. Okay. There we go. So now we have put all the butter in, and it is around pea-sized pieces for most of them. I will just do one moment. Okay. While grabbing tin foil, I will also have some saran wrap, because it comes in handy once you wrap up the dough, because when you're leaving it to chill in the fridge, if you don't cover it, it can dry out a little bit. So I think it's best, in my opinion, from my experience, to leave it for around 30 minutes inside the saran wrap and wrap it tightly. Because if you don't, then it is possible that air will get in there, and we don't want that. Now, I will have a timer running in the background for what I'm putting in right now. But, rest assured, it will not take away from the baking experience. Okay. So, I'm going to put this in the oven, as we're going to be using that soon. We'll see. Looking forward to it. All right, 55 minutes. It cooks for a long time. So we have a long time to spend on this recipe, which is so fortunate. Okay. So now this is where things might get a little bit messy, because we have to mix in the butter to the flour and sugar and salt mixture. So you're going to go in with your hands, and you're just going to start coating the butter and rolling it around in your fingers a little bit. Make sure you don't have long nails, because the butter and the flour and sugar can get stuck under your nails if you're not careful. Okay, so you're going to end up coating the butter sort of like this. And once you're there, you're going to start pressing it down once you grab at it. Again, this is where having long nails would not be preferable. You're going to start smushing it into the flour almost. Now, don't be too rigorous, because if you move too quickly or squish it too hard, then flour can puff up out of the bowl, and it gets a little annoying to clean up. I wouldn't recommend dealing with that. So let's just stick with calm, even movements. Luckily, the temperature that I set the oven to is around the temperature that we'll need to bake this recipe at. So that's fortunate. We won't have to change much when we go in there. All right, now back to this. So once your kind of incorporating everything, and the pieces are starting to not melt per se, but they're starting to incorporate more. Just go in there and start grabbing at it a little bit repeatedly in a similar motion at a constant speed. And that'll fully incorporate everything. And you're just going to have to repeat these steps a couple of times until everything looks about right. Now, there's no set time on this. It really depends on how you're incorporating this with your hands and like the type of movements that you're doing. So it'll have to go based off the individual when you're looking at this. And you just have to look at this mixture to be able to tell when you think it's probably good enough to start adding other ingredients to, because it's not a metric, it's an eyeball sort of situation. You just keep on mixing it in until the dough is a good enough texture. So now I think I need to mix mine a little bit more, but we're almost there. So I'll explain the next step. Once you're done with this, you're going to take that mixture that we set off to the side with the egg and the cream, and you're going to mix it into here, and then you're going to continue to knead this. And that will eventually form the dough once that's fully incorporated. But until then, it's going to be a little bit more mixing. So this is a bit of a lengthier step of the process. All right, here we are. And all right, so this is about what your mixture should look like. We're almost there fully, not quite yet, but this should be about the texture. It crumbles, but if you hold it together, it will form. That is what a shaggy mixture is. And this shaggy mixture honestly looks really good. I wish I could just eat it like this, but it's not quite there yet. All right. Now, I think mine is ready to go, although yours may still be not fully incorporated and you may still have chunks of butter, or you could have finished a long time ago. You really, I don't know. Just look at it. It's not that hard. Okay, so shake off as much of it as you can from your hands back into the bowl because you don't want to waste too much dough. And once we're here, we're going to take this mixture that we have right here. If you have to, re-whisk it up so that it's fully mixed. And we're going to just dump it in here, scraping out as much as you can so that you don't leave too much excess. After all, we don't waste in this kitchen. All right, that seems to be about good. Now, I just go in with a fork at first, and I stir it like so. Just for a little bit until it starts to incorporate more. Then you drag in some more of the dry ingredients. And now you should start feeling it turning into a doughy texture. This is exactly where you want it to be, and this is exactly what you want it to be like. And after a little while of mixing it like so, you can go in with your hands and you can start kneading it that way. Although, first, I'm going to prepare my saran wrap for when I'm finally done with the dough. This dough tends to run a little bit sticky, but it's okay. It won't be too sticky for long. And once it's chilled, it also loses some of that stickiness, and it's okay. Now, press and seal works, but I grabbed the wrong container because I'm so smart. So let's grab another one. This one is cling wrap. Okay, perfect. So now that we have our actual cling wrap, just take a bit out. I'd recommend rolling a sheet like this big. It's not too big, not too small. It doesn't have to be perfect either, since we're just going to end up rolling the dough in it anyways. So cut it off there. absolutely horrendous. I'm still not very good with that. So let's leave it here for now. All right. Now, again, try to clean up as much as you can throughout the process. Are you guys following? Is everyone still there at home? All right. So you're going to take it and you're just going to have to start mixing it together with your hands. Make sure it's a good texture. Get everything off the bottom because you don't want any dry ingredients left behind, as that's not a good sign. That means that it hasn't been fully mixed or mixed well. You're just going to slowly take everything from the bottom, mix it back into this main dough clump. And it should be kind of like a buttery texture like this. Don't know if you can see it too well on camera, but that's okay. Now, YouTube compression might be screwing me over and not letting anybody see what it looks like, but that's okay. That's more than okay. All right. So now we have this dough and it looks kind of golden brown. It's perfect. That's exactly what it should look like. Make sure you get everything off the bottom. And once you're there, you're going to, oh, the oven is done heating up. Once you're there, you're going to put it on the saran wrap and you're going to seal it like so. And I personally like flattening out my dough, as when I flatten it out, it allows it to chill more evenly and a little bit quicker too, not by all that much, but just a little bit. And even a slight speed increase can help. So here we are. And now this is ready to go in the fridge. It's going to go in the fridge for around 30 minutes. And I'm just going to set a timer on my Bluetooth device because it's convenient and I really can't use my hands right now. No, I have my phone. Set a timer for 30 minutes. All right, so this is a bit of a longer step of the process where you basically just let it chill in the fridge for 30 minutes. But since I feel like continuing the stream and not letting you guys just sit through absolutely nothing, I'm going to show you guys my cleaning up process, because half of the work of cooking and baking includes cleaning up. And cleaning is important in all stretches of life. So, for starters, my first order of business is typically the bowl. It's not very dirty, but it's very greasy feeling. And I absolutely hate that feeling in my dishes. But before I can clean the dishes, I have to clean my hands. So let's just wash our hands after doing all that kneading and mixing, because they probably have stuff under the nails, stuff caked on the hands, and maybe even your wrists and like that area if you were really getting into baking. But you do you. So now, make sure to clean in between your fingers, on the palms, on the outside of your hand, and if you can, underneath your nails too, because there is a chance that you've got stuff under them, although maybe you have really, really short nails and you just don't. But I have medium length nails. All right, now that my hands are a little more clean, now that we're ready to go, it's going to be a lot easier to clean these dishes. So I'm going to dry my hands, make sure that I have nothing else on them. You will end up replacing this towel in the cooking process, probably somewhere in between when you're cleaning dishes, because this thing is going to get so wet so fast. All right. Now that we're here, time to start cleaning the bowl. And, you have to clean these utensils, except for these because they're clean, but you have to clean all these. They will come up later and they will be important in the curd, which is the next part of our tart. But we're not done with the crust yet, as there's more to come once it's done chilling. I'll explain the process of like what we're gonna do a little bit closer to when we're actually about to do it. But for now, I'll just continue with cleaning up because I like rinsing out these cups with water first to make sure that I get all the flour and sugar and other sediments out and rinsed out so that it's not just a soapy flour mixture getting sifted around inside here. See, it's just soap. I tend to use a lot of soap because I like to guarantee that all my cooking utensils are clean. After all, I don't want to take precautions. I don't want to take any risks, and I try to take all the precautions I can. Yikes, I can't speak today either, but that's okay. That's okay. We're not here to talk, we're here to bake. Now, once this dough is done chilling in the fridge, we're gonna have to put it into a tin or a tart tin mold thing. And we are going to like press it down and roll it out to put it in the tin. And then we need to leave it to chill again, but this time in the freezer right behind me, because it needs to harden a little bit before you put it in the oven. And there's a small detail in between there that you cannot forget because it is fairly important to how the dough is supposed to rise and bake without causing major bubbles or disturbances with the bottom of the tart. I will say I always make the mistake of rolling out my tart dough way too thick on the bottom or the sides. I always end up leaning towards either one. So you have to make sure that you roll it out extremely evenly too, because that'll definitely help you when you're putting it in the tin. And don't be worried if it tears while you're putting it in the tin. That is completely normal and it can happen. It probably will happen. You're just gonna have to roll with what you have. You can chill it and put it back in the fridge for a little bit and then try again. Or if you don't have a lot of time on your hands, you can just mold it in. The second option might leave you with a bit of a slightly thicker crusted area in some parts of the tart, but the end result will still taste the same. It'll just look a little different and it might have a slightly different texture. All right, we're almost done with cleaning up. And once we're done cleaning, we'll have to check how much time is left on the timer for chilling in the fridge. I suspect that there's still a lot of time on it though, because it hasn't been all that long since we put it in there. And welcome to the live stream, whoever joined not that long ago. Sorry, I was in the middle of a little rant. Okay. Now, let's quickly take a look at the timer. There are 24 minutes left, which is a good thing because we still have some dishes to do. Now, we have utensils and more equipment like measuring cups and such. And I like to fill this bowl with water while I'm cleaning it so that I can just quickly get large pieces of dough or anything caking onto any utensils off, at least somewhat, so that it's a little easier to scrub later. And so I don't have to get my sponge that messy. It's also good for rinsing stuff out just really quickly. So I'm going to take all that dough stuff off because it'll create a really greasy texture on utensils if it stays on too long, and it's kind of gross. Now, don't forget to wash the handles because people touch that too. You're going to go in between the prongs and the sides too. It really likes to hide everywhere on forks because if you're pressing them in kind of hard, it sticks to the inside of the prongs, it sticks to the tips, to the sides, and even sometimes the handle if you're really putting the fork in there. Do bear with me. I am sick. Apologies for my voice. So now we're going to rinse out the egg and cream mixture, because if you don't rinse this out quick enough, it can be a little hard to wash out, as egg likes to stick to surfaces and cream is just cream. It'll just stick around. Like cleaning the outside too, just in case anything spilled on it. Handle as well. And the bottom, just in case I put it on top of anything, because if you put it on top of anything, it'll result in some stains, like on the counter, obviously, and it'll leave a mess on the bottom of the measuring cup, which is a bit annoying if you need to use it in the future, which we will. Just during the curd step of the tart, you guys will see we end up using this a little bit. So it's just nice to have it cleaned and ready to go, so we don't have to take time out of any other step of the process to do so. All right. All my viewers disappeared, but that's a-okay, because we're just going to be setting up, and it's not going to be too interesting because I won't be really explaining anything. So during this next part, nothing much will be going on. Okay. You got to make sure it's thoroughly dried, because it's kind of gross if it's not, because that could end up in ingredients later. All right. I do have a confession for any of you still here. So I always have an issue when I'm working on the curd of the tart with juicing the lemons and filtering out the seeds and pulp. I always, and I mean always, find a way to mess it up. It is kind of a curse. It is an absolute curse, but we're going to do it just fine. Just wait. All right. Now, in our main work area, we're going to remove any trash, and we won't be needing the flour, so I'm going to be throwing that away as well. Okay. This knife will also be washed in just a moment. Okay. Now, cleaning up in between the steps of the process will make the end cleanup a lot easier. I recommend doing it. I know I've said that like 4 or 5 times while I'm here, but it's really just that important. Okay. All right. Looks like we have 19 minutes left on the timer, and that is just enough time to start on the next step of this process. So this is preparing to roll out our dough. And while rolling out the dough, we're going to need a little bit of space and some flour, which is exciting. So let's get to it, I guess. Now, I have this specific mat that I use for rolling stuff out, and I always keep it under my oven because it's so convenient to just always have it be creased, because I absolutely love having permanently creased things. Just great. Okay. I'm going to use a paper towel really quickly to just pick up some of the dough and other things. All right, perfect. Just push off some stuff into the sink, because we can always rinse the sink, but it's a little bit harder to rinse the counter. So here we are. Ooh. I am going to share this live stream with some people, even though I'm pretty sure I already did, so don't know where that went. But yeah, that's okay. All right. Share. See, this is why I really like live streaming, because everything I'm doing, I can talk about it in real time and know that people are actually watching it. And it's really interesting. So, sent out. Here we go. Perfect. Let's see how many supporters I can garner. Shucks. Anyways, next we're going to set out this rolling mat. And I have a specific rolling mat that I really like. I've used it every single time that I've done this. These will come up a little later. Because this is a little bit of a more tedious step. So make sure you have a lot of space. You're going to use it more than likely. I'm going to slowly put away ingredients because I don't like having a lot of things out and crowding the space that I'm using. But what you're going to need for the curd, we'll take out later, as it's not useful right now since we're just going to be rolling dough out and we don't need those ingredients yet. All right, putting stuff away. My apologies. One moment. All right. This thing is a nasty little thing on the counter. Okay, here we are. Okay. Once you're here, just get like a handful of flour, let's say, and toss it on just so you can have it to spread around to make sure that the dough is not going to stick. That is the most important step during this step, is making sure that the dough does not stick to the rolling mat, because that will be extremely helpful later for when you have to flip it over and eventually pick it up to transfer it into the tart tin. All right. Now, there isn't too much time left on the timer, only around 15 minutes. So let me show you all the tart tin that I'm going to be using for today. If I can find it. Just great. Okay, all right, that was quick. So this time, I only made a single batch, as I only plan on making one tart. Although in the past, I've made two. And it gets a little bit chaotic. Sometimes it can be ever so slightly hard to manage everything. But I think that it is possible, as you can double this recipe and just make everything in pairs, which would be a little more difficult, but it's perfectly doable for the average person. Although I like just making single tarts one at a time, since it gives you less room for error, and we could always use less room for error and less mistakes. Now, I am going to turn on a couple lights as it's getting a little dark in here. So, I like using this tart tin from Dash of That, fancy name, because it's around 9 to 10 inches, and that's the size you're going to be needing for this recipe. And it has a removable bottom that works super well, and it's extremely convenient. Whew. Now, I think we're about ready to go. And now we just wait and wait and wait. Here are all the cleaned tools. Perfect. So, there's an important step that you cannot forget once you rolled it out and are about to put it in the freezer. The reason I washed that fork is because we're going to be using it. Once we roll it out and put it in the tin, you're going to have to poke holes in the bottom with the fork. Now, this will allow for any air within the tart to obviously come out, and it'll prevent any large bubbling. Although there is still a chance for bubbling, it doesn't prevent it. So there is something you can do if it does end up bubbling after the fact. Okay. So let's move on. You're going to need a rolling pin, obviously. Trusty dusty rolling pin. Here we are. I just use one that we've had for a couple of years now. It works really well, and I really don't have any problems with it. So I prefer using a rolling pin like this. Although I've never tried it with a plastic rolling pin, so I can't speak as to how successful it is at rolling this out. You're going to end up needing a knife once you roll everything out and put it in the tin, because you're going to have to trim the top just a little bit by just running the knife along the edge to clean it up, because we don't want any rough edges or anything bumpy and lumpy and ugly. It won't look good. And this tart looks really good. So it'd be such a shame if there was one component that did not look good on it. All right, now we can wait, because there isn't much to do currently, and that is a blessing. "30 more minutes on my mystery object in the oven." We'll see what happens with that. Okay. This is the most difficult part of the baking, finding something to do to pass the time. How about preparing for our next steps? Dang, somebody did not like that. Okay, so you're just going to need a saucepan with a lid, preferably. You won't be using it much, but it's just nice to have if you need to take a little bit in between steps and in between, like when you make the curd and when you put it on, just to keep it a little bit warmer. Even though you're supposed to let it cool down, I personally think having the curd be a little warm when it goes in isn't going to hurt it. It could just be me. So you're going to be using that alongside these lemons with a microplaner. And a microplaner, if you don't know what it is, which kind of shocked me, it is this sort of tool. It's what you use to zest lemons, because one of the more important pieces of the lemon will be the zest in the juice. And the zest is just going to help elevate the flavor a lot, and it creates a really interesting flavor profile on the tart itself. But it doesn't affect the texture too much. It just adds a little bit of an interesting... anyways. So we're going to use that. All right. We have 8 minutes left on the dough in the fridge. Now, 8 minutes might not seem like a lot, but every minute really counts, and it actually makes a difference, because the longer you let it chill, the more it'll be set and hardened. And that doesn't sound great, if I'm being honest, because why would you want the dough to be hard and like hard to work with? But it's actually important that it is a little bit more hard because this dough falls apart fairly easily. And you do not want it falling apart. At least I wouldn't want it falling apart, but who knows? Maybe you do. I just say take about a handful, just put it on there. That should be more than enough. Unless it's not, but it should be. Let's create clouds of flour. Okay. So, we won't need sugar. I just have it here. I don't know why. You know what? I'm actually feeling like rushing this a little bit because I have some deadlines to meet and I have some things to do tonight. So I can't take too long on this. So now I'm going to take the dough out of the fridge because I think it'll be chilled just enough. Yeah, it's cold enough. It's not solid, but it should do. Now we get to the most important part of the laying out the tart. Rolling it out and getting it to fit inside the tart pan properly, which is a lot harder than it sounds. And it shouldn't be. I used this thing on the wrong side, and that's okay. We can move past it. I think. I just recommend getting a little bit of flour on the rolling pin. Just that the rolling pin doesn't stick. That wouldn't be good either. Perfect. It is definitely cold. So when you're rolling it out, you don't have to press hard. You just have to make sure that you are pressing, because just rolling the pin over it is going to do absolutely nothing for it. But pressing too hard is going to guarantee basically that it'll stick and it'll be messy, and nobody wants that. So ignore that. That looks awful. But anyway. All right. Now just place that back down. Reflour the pin if it's losing it too fast. And we just continue rolling it out. Now, my dough does crack a bit while it's being rolled out, which is kind of unfortunate, but I haven't really found a way to fix this yet while I've made it. If I do, I'll make an update video to this recipe / cooking tutorial / cooking stream, and I will redo it. So I guess subscribe or something if you want to see that. Okay, here we are. Rolling it out. It's not going to take 80 years. We got this. Well, with a little bit of patience, it can go a long way. I would most definitely know. I don't want to lift it up because I'm super scared that it is sticking horrendously, but I might have to pick it up. Because I think it's just about big enough to cover the inside. Perfect. There. I might have rolled it out slightly too thin, but this is what we're going to have to work with. Now, you're going to have to be a little bit careful when you put it inside the tin. And you're going to try to pick it up without breaking it. We'll see how successful we can be. This is about to be the messiest part of the process because, yikes, it gets bad. Good to know the dough is behaving absolutely horribly. Yep. All right, that went to shit. Anyways, so we're just going to put it in. We're going to mold it in because this is what it always resorts to. I swear to God. All right, great. Anyways, it almost looks like there isn't enough dough, and that's never happened before. So I'm really glad that it's happening for the first time now that I'm live streaming it, because like that just like really installs joy, you know? Well, fuck. Anyways, whatever will I do? Frankenstein it. I was about to say never mind. Anywho. Right. I'm gonna shave down the thickness of this crust on the bottom even more. Great. Great. Now, I guess if you've come to this Frankenstein stage, just like, yikes. Roll it out. Or not roll it out. Press it in to the sides of the tin because they'll end up inflating a lot later anyways. So if they're not like the thickest right now, it's okay. Just make sure that they're thick enough where they won't break off if you try to grab them, because that wouldn't be good. But don't make them too thick, or else it'll be kind of gross. So you have to strike a balance, a good balance. Okay. Now we've used up most of the dough, which is not a good sign. That means my rollout job was not good. Damn. I really thought I did a good job with this one. Okay. Well, what can you do? We're going to take the knife. We're going to cut it on the sides, on top. Then we're going to redistribute that alongside the top, really anywhere that it can go. All right, Jurassic measures here. Everyone look away, because I might have to try and scrape some off the bottom. Yeah, there's way too much on the bottom. That's great. Okay. So now, press that in, trim that, get as much access as we can for the other parts. Great. Build up the walls a bit. Now that we're here, make sure there are no gaps, because if there are any gaps, then the curd can leak through it, and it can be a bit of a mess when you're baking in the oven. And I don't think anybody wants any unnecessary messes, so let's just bake it right. Okay. Now that looks better than it was. Dang, that is so good. Absolutely magnificent. Okay, here we are. "13 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yikes, that is thin. Thin. Okay, looks like we're just gonna have one really thin part of the crust. That's okay. Should be fine. I don't think this is gonna be around too long to judge anyways. So. All right. Now, this is what mine ended up looking like. I think it's all right. It's nothing too special, but that's okay. So, here we go. Now, I did not, in fact, forget about that step from earlier. We're going to take a fork. We're going to press holes into the bottom. Not too big, but not too small either, where they won't do anything. I like just putting it in and ever so slightly wiggling it around. But you can do whatever works best for you. I did not roll it out enough. Good to know. All right. Here we are. Now, you're going to have to try and find space for it in the freezer. And you're going to leave this in the freezer for 30 minutes as well. I'm hoping that, unlike me, you all will actually have space in your freezer. Because I'm just going to take stuff out and hope it doesn't defrost. Okay, that wasn't awful. So we'll see how that turned out. Now, to clean up, if you don't have a lot of excess dough, I'd recommend just saving the flour, because why not? But to each their own. All right. Now, I think the rest of this did come into contact with it, so this will not be going back in the original flour container. Right. Time to wash this. Now, washing this is a whole process of its own. So, first, we're going to wash the dishes, and I might have to end the stream and just like start again in a minute to show you guys what the curd ends up turning out like, because I have some other commitments in a little bit. But for now, we're just going to keep pressing on. So I like to just put a couple drops of soap in here. And around a couple times. Really break up any big chunks of dough that weren't broken down by the water, because those will be annoying later. So now. All right, here we go. Fill it up a little bit more with water after all. You don't want too much water to soak. The ratio needs to be good. That's about good. So you're just going to take it, swish it around. Side stuff it out. And again, just a little dab of soap on here, a little bit bigger than that. A little dab of soap in there. Then just start going through it with the sponge. Make sure to get the bottom, get the top, get the sides on all sides. And then also get the handles, this bit, get around the edge, and the outside. Get the underside of the handle too, because you don't want to miss anything. That would be unfortunate. Is anybody still there even? Comment if you're still there. Because I'd love to see your guys' comments down below. Or I guess to the side. It's alive. But do leave a comment if you are still here. All right, great. So since I have no viewers, I'm probably just going to end it in like a minute once I'm done with all the cleaning and everything. Because, I don't know, throwing it in the oven probably isn't going to be the most interesting thing. And then, but you know what? I'll start another live stream for the curd. Or maybe I can just pause this stream. I do think that is possible. I think so. Okay. Outside of that bowl is dry. Inside. What the? Perfect. All right, that looks good. Fork time. Don't forget the handles. All right. Now that looks to be about good. I'm so excited for this tart to come out because my physics teacher, his name is Mr. Pinnell. He is a super kind man, and I think he truly deserves this tart because he's been working at RV for such a long time. And 50 is a big milestone, especially since it's a 5-0. It's a 0 number one. So that means it's magically more important. This one needs it on the handle because I don't know what happened to this handle, but it's all buttery. Oh, this was the butter knife. Funny how that works. Okay. Now, this towel is going to be soaked by the end of this. Whoa. Okay. This, I'm not. Yeah, actually, I'm putting it back. Because I don't think we'll be needing a bowl since everything else to come can be done inside the actual pot that it's going to be cooking in. So I don't think it'll be necessary to have an extra bowl, which is super fortunate for us because that means that we can remove one dish from the rest of this meal. I do apologize to everyone watching, but it looks like I will have to go soon. And when I do go, I will be baking my tart dough. So you guys won't see any of that actual baking process because there's nothing really to watch. But you will be able to see what it looks like after, as I'm probably going to start up a secondary stream. Unless I just end up finishing the tart like outside of the stream, but I don't really know what I'm gonna do yet. So guess I'll see. But once I finish baking that, I'm gonna have to make the curd. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna eat dinner here. Then I am going to just work on this outside of stream from now on. Well, thank you all for watching. And if you made it to the end, please do subscribe because obviously you think I'm interesting enough to watch for an hour and 20 minutes. But I don't really care what you do with your time. It is yours, and you're a better judge of your own interests than me. So do as you please. But do know your viewership is always appreciated. And thank you if you subscribe. Even if you like the video too, because engagement is engagement. I don't really know what that means. But that's okay. We'll get there eventually. Well, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later. And stream.